Alaikum wa rahmatullah. Today, inshallah, we're going to solve Cambridge exam, October-November 2023, paper 22. Let's start it. Question 1. Part of a cooling curve for water is shown. What is occurring between point X and Y? As we can see from the curve, the starting temperature is below 100, so water here is liquid. Then at temperature 0, we have liquid which should change into solid. This is the freezing point of water. So what is happening here? That the liquid is freezing into solid at temperature 0, and 0 is a freezing point for water. Which statement is correct? A. Steam is condensed into water. This is wrong because we have here liquid which is freezing into ice. The temperature of water is decreasing. This is also wrong because the temperature is constant at 0 degrees Celsius. Ice is melting. This is also wrong because we have the liquid which is freezing into ice. Particles are losing heat to the surrounding. This is correct because the liquid particle loses heat to the surrounding to change into solid. So the answer is D. Question 2. Which statement about clean dry air are correct? 1. It's a mixture of elements only. This is wrong because we have carbon dioxide, one of the constituents of clean dry air, and carbon dioxide is a compound. Number 2, mixture of elements and compound. This is a correct statement. We have elements like oxygen, nitrogen, argon, and a compound like carbon dioxide. Statement 3, it contains only nonmetal. This is correct because all the elements and compound we have just said are nonmetals. So we have two correct statements, 2 and 3, and the answer is C. Question 3, a representation of an atom is shown. What is the nucleon number of this atom? The nucleon number is the mass number, which is the total number of protons and neutrons inside the nucleus of an atom. So here we will count inside the nucleus. We have 6 protons and 7 neutrons. The total will be 13. So the nucleon number here is 13, and the answer is D. Question 4. The percentage abundance of the 3 isotopes in a sample of neon are shown. We have 3 isotopes as shown here in the table, neon 20, 21, and 22. Each isotope has a percentage abundance. To calculate the relative atomic mass of neon, we will multiply the mass of each isotope by its percentage abundance, then we will add them together, divide by 100. So here we will multiply 20 by 90.48, plus 21 times 0.27, then again plus 22 times 9.25, and the answer will be divided by 100. So the relative atomic mass for neon is 20.19, and the answer is B. Question 5. Potassium reacts with iodine to form potassium iodide. Which statement about potassium iodide is correct? Statement 1. Each potassium atom share a pair of electrons with iodine atoms. This is of course wrong because potassium iodide is ionic compound and there is no sharing. B. In potassium iodide, the particles of potassium have more protons than electrons. In potassium iodide, potassium metal, which has 19 electrons, 2, 8, 8, 1, loses 1 electron to form potassium positive charge ion, which is 2, 8, 8. So now potassium has only 18 electrons and 19 protons. Potassium, the particle of potassium inside potassium iodide, have 19 protons and 18 electrons, so it has more protons than electrons. Statement B is correct. Potassium iodide has high melting point because it's covalent. This is of course wrong, it's ionic. Potassium iodide has low melting point because it's ionic. This is of course wrong. Ionic compound have high melting point, so the only correct statement is B. Question 6. Which substance has the lowest melting point? Graphite is giant covalent compound. Silicon dioxide is also giant covalent. Both have high melting point. Sodium chloride is ionic compound. It's also ionic compound, have high melting point. Methanol is a covalent compound, so covalent compound have low melting point. So the lowest melting point here is methanol. The answer is B. Question 7. The diagram shows the structure of a molecule of ethyl ethanoate. What is the molecular formula of one molecule of ethyl ethanoate? To write the molecular formula, we will count the number of each type of atom. Here we have 4 carbons, so it will be C4 and only 2 oxygen, O2. How many hydrogen? 8 hydrogen. So the molecular formula will be C4H8O2, and the answer is B. Question 8. A hydrocarbon contains 85.7% of carbon by mass. What is the empirical formula of this hydrocarbon? We have 85.7% carbon, so we will subtract 100 minus 85.7. We will get the percentage of hydrogen, which is 14.3. Because it's hydrocarbon, it contains only carbon and hydrogen. So to complete 100%, we will be completed only with hydrogen. Then we will divide the percentage by the mass of carbon, which is 12, and here by the mass of hydrogen, which is 1, to get the ratio between carbon and hydrogen, which is 1 to 2. So the empirical formula will be CH2. Question 9. The formula of a compound containing element X is Na2X2O3. The relative formula mass of this compound is 158. What is the relative atomic mass of X? The relative formula mass of the compound is 158. So 158 is the sum of all the masses of the atoms inside the compound. So the mass of 2 sodium plus the mass of 2X and 3 oxygen all gives the total of 158. So making X is the subject of the formula, the total will be 64. So 1X is equal to 32, and the answer is A. Question 10. Dilute aqueous potassium chloride is electrolyzed using platinum electrodes. Which row identifies the product of each electrode? We have diluted aqueous potassium chloride, so the ions present potassium ions, chloride ions, protons, and OH from water. Because the solution is diluted, so chloride ions will not form chlorine gas at the anode. Instead, oxygen gas will be formed at the anode, so we will choose oxygen at the anode. And of course, potassium ions will not be attracted to the cathode. Instead of that, hydrogen gas will be formed at the cathode, so the answer will be C. Question 11. Concentrated aqueous copper chloride is electrolyzed using copper electrodes. Here the electrodes are not inert, electrodes are made of copper. So what happens to the mass of each electrode during this process? Here we have concentrated aqueous copper chloride. So at the cathode, copper ions from solution can gain 2 electrons and convert into copper metal, and this of course will increase the mass of the negative electrode, so we will choose increase. And the anode is also made from copper. Copper metal of the anode will ionize to produce copper ion to replace the solution, so the mass of the anode will decrease, and the answer is B. Question 12. The initial and the final temperature of 4 different reactions are measured. Which reaction is the least exothermic? Least exothermic means it produces the least amount of heat or the least temperature difference. Here at A, it was at the temperature, initial temperature was 19 and change into 25. So we have 6 degrees increase in temperature. B, change from 21 to 18. So this is a decrease in temperature. It's an endothermic reaction. Also in C, from 22 to 17 is a decrease in temperature. D, we have an increase from 22 to 26, only increased by 4 degrees. So it is less exothermic than reaction 1. The least exothermic is D. Question 13. The equation represents an endothermic reaction. In the first equation, we have chlorine molecule breaks into 2 chlorine atoms. So breaking bond is an endothermic process. Number 2, it's a combustion. Combustion is exothermic process. Here, bond forming, releasing energy between two hydrogen atoms to form a hydrogen molecule. So this is also exothermic. Reaction of potassium with water is highly exothermic, where hydrogen gas produced and flames of lilac flame for potassium metal. So the only endothermic reaction is A. Question 14. Methane burns in oxygen to form carbon dioxide and water. The bond energies are shown here in the table. What is the energy change for the reaction? To calculate the energy change, first we will calculate the energy absorbed to break the bonds. We have 4 CH bonds in methane, so we will multiply 410 by 4, then 2 oxygen double bond oxygen, so we will multiply 2 by 496. The total energy absorbed will be 2632. Then the energy released from forming new bonds in the products, we have 2 carbon oxygen double bonds, so we will multiply 805 by 2, then 4 OH bonds. Here we have the value for OH 460, we multiplied by 4. The total energy released is 3450, and the delta H is the energy absorbed minus the energy released, which will be minus 818 kilojoule per mole, and the answer is A. Question 15. Hydrochloric acid is added to excess calcium carbonate into 2 separate experiments. So we have calcium carbonate in excess. 2 different concentrations of hydrochloric acid are used, but the temperature is the same in both experiments. We have 2 different concentrations of hydrochloric acid, 2 mole per decimeter cube and 1 mole per decimeter cube. The graph for the results showed the volume of carbon dioxide gas given off over time. Which row is correct? The particles in the hydrochloric acid with concentration 2 mole per decimeter compared to 1 mole per decimeter cube. He's asking about the collision rate and the collision energy. Of course, as we increase the concentration of the acid, we will have higher number of particles per unit volume, so we will have higher collision rate or more frequent collision. The collision rate will increase, but the increasing concentration have no effect on the collision energy, so there is no change. The answer is A. Question 16. The decomposition of dinitrogen tetroxide into nitrogen dioxide is a reversible reaction. The equation for the reaction is shown. The forward reaction is endothermic. Which row shows the effect on the position of equilibrium and the rate of the reverse reaction when the temperature increases? Because the forward reaction is endothermic, by increasing the temperature, of course, the equilibrium will be shifted toward the forward side or the right side. So we will have a position of equilibrium shifted toward right because the right is endothermic. So we will choose shift to right. About the rate of the reverse reaction, increasing the temperature will increase both the rate of the forward and the rate of the backward reaction. So here he is asking only about the reverse reaction. Of course, it will be increased, and the answer is D. Question 17. In the blast furnace, iron 3 oxide is converted to iron and carbon monoxide is converted to carbon dioxide. What happened to each of these reactants? Reactant, which is the first reactant, iron 3 oxide, and the second, carbon monoxide. Both iron oxide and carbon monoxide are oxidized. This is, of course, wrong. Both iron 3 oxide and carbon monoxide are reduced. This is also wrong. Here, iron loses oxygen, so iron reduced. Carbon monoxide gain oxygen, so carbon monoxide get oxidized. The answer is D. Iron oxide is reduced and carbon monoxide is oxidized. Question 18. Which row describe what happens to iron plus 2 ions when they are oxidized? Of course, when they are oxidized, they will lose electrons. Oxidation means loss of electrons. So when losing electron, the positive charge on the ion will increase. So the iron +2 will change into iron +3. That means increase in the oxidation number of iron. So we will choose, they will lose electron and the oxidation number will increase. So the answer is D. Question 19. In which reaction does an acid react with a base? Acid is a proton donor and a base is a proton acceptor. So we will choose a reaction in which one of the reactant donate proton and the other reactant accept this proton. Here, equation D, sodium hydroxide is added to solid ammonium sulfate. Each ammonium ion will lose one electron, it will lose one proton to convert into ammonia gas. This proton lost from the ammonium ion will be gained by sodium hydroxide to form water. So an acid-base reaction is represented by equation D. Question 20. Which element form an oxide that will react with an aqueous solution of a base? Oxide that will react with a base, of course, is acidic oxide, and acidic oxide is a non-metal oxide. So we will search for a non-metal oxide to react with the base. Here we have only the non-metal is sulfur, so the answer is B. Question 21. Which method is used to produce insoluble salt? Insoluble salt can be produced by precipitation. Precipitation means mixing two aqueous solutions together to form a precipitate. So the method is C, precipitation using two aqueous solutions. Question 22. Noble gases are in group 8 in the periodic table. Some properties of the first 4 noble gases are shown, as we can see here from the table. Helium, neon, argon, and krypton. Different boiling point shown in column 2 and different densities in column 3. Which row identified the trend in boiling point and in density as group 8 element is descended? As we can see, the number shown here for the boiling point increase as we go down the group from -267 to -152. So the boiling point increase as we go down the group, and of course the density is also increased from 0.1, 0.9, 1.7, 3.7. This is an increase in the density, so we will choose both the boiling point increase and the density increase. The answer is B. Question 23. Some properties of element are shown here. Melting point 98, boiling point 883. It can react with cold water to give off hydrogen gas, and reaction when heated with oxygen, it burns to give a white solid. In which part of the periodic table R is found? Here R can react with cold water, so it is an element of group 1 and it gives a white solid, so of course it's an element from group 1. Group 7 and group 8 cannot react with cold water, and transition elements cannot react with cold water, and when burned with oxygen it will not give a white solid. And of course transition elements have much higher boiling point and melting point than group 1, so the answer is A. Question 24. Which pair of compounds shows a transition elements have a variable oxidation state? Here we have to check the oxidation number of each metal in the two compounds. So first, chromium oxide, here the chromium have a +3 charge, and in chromium bromide it's also have a +3 charge, so there is no change in oxidation state here. Copper sulfate, here copper as a +2 charge, and also in copper 2 chloride the charge is +2, so here also there is no change in the oxidation state. Iron 3 oxide, the oxidation state here is +3, and in iron 2 chloride the oxidation state is +2. So here we have two oxidation state for iron that can show that transition element have a variable oxidation state, so the answer is C. Of course in D also nickel here has +2 charge, and in nickel chloride it also has +2 charge, so the answer is C. Question 25. The list gives the order of some metals and hydrogen in the reactivity series. Metal X is also included. As we can see here, metal X is below hydrogen in the reactivity series, so it cannot react with acid or cannot displace the hydrogen of the acid. So here in the first column, reaction with dilute acid, we will choose no, it cannot react with acid because it is less reactive than hydrogen or below hydrogen in the reactivity series. Oxide of X can be reduced by carbon. Of course, it can be reduced by carbon as X is below carbon in the reactivity series. So yes, it can be reduced by carbon, and the answer is B. Question 26. When zinc is added to an aqueous solution containing magnesium ion, there is no reaction. There is no reaction because magnesium is more reactive than zinc, so zinc cannot displace magnesium from a solution containing magnesium ion. Which species has the greatest tendency to lose electron? Losing electrons means oxidation. As the metal becomes more reactive, it has a greater tendency to lose electrons. So here we've just said that magnesium is more reactive than zinc, so magnesium has a greater tendency to lose electrons, and the answer will be A, magnesium metal. Question 27. Which gas in the air is needed for the iron to rust? Of course, oxygen is needed for iron to rust, and the answer is D. Question 28. Which coating prevents iron from rusting even when the coating is damaged? A coating of the metal which is more reactive than iron can prevent iron from rusting even if the coating is damaged or scratched. So here the metal that is more reactive than iron is zinc. The answer is D. Question 29. Why is limestone added in the blast furnace? Neutralize the molten slag which is produced. Of course, this is wrong. Limestone is used to form the slag. Get rid of the impurities silicon dioxide by forming a slag. It reacts with the impurities to form a slag. This is correct. Limestone first decomposes to form calcium oxide, then calcium oxide react with the impurities, which is silicon dioxide, to form the slag, which is calcium silicate. This is the equation for the formation of slag, which is the rule of the limestone in the blast furnace. So the answer is B. The flow chart shows the stage in the treatment of river water to produce drinking water. As we can see, river water first goes to sedimentation tanks, then stage J, K, then we will find it as a drinking water. What happened in stage J and K? After the sedimentation tanks, we can make filtration to remove the small particles present in water, then chlorination to kill bacteria because chlorine acts as a disinfectant for water. After that, we can use it as a drinking water, so the answer is C. First filtration, then chlorination. Question 31. Carbon dioxide acts as a greenhouse gas by interacting with a particular type of energy that radiates from the Earth's surface into the atmosphere. Which type of energy is involved and what happened when this energy interacts with carbon dioxide molecules? Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. It increases the temperature of the Earth's surface by absorb the heat energy radiated back from the Earth's surface to the atmosphere. So the type of energy involved here, of course, is the thermal energy. When the surface of the Earth absorbed energy from the sun, it radiated back this energy to the atmosphere, and carbon dioxide prevent this reflection back to the atmosphere of the thermal energy because carbon dioxide absorb this energy. So it will increase the temperature of the Earth's surface, and the answer is B. The type of energy is the thermal energy, and the action of carbon dioxide absorb this energy, prevent it from being reflected back to the atmosphere. 32. Oxides of nitrogen such as nitrogen monoxide and nitrogen dioxide are formed in the petrol engine of a car. They are removed from the exhaust gases by reaction in the car catalytic converter. Which row describe how the oxides of nitrogen are formed in a petrol engine and the reaction that happened in the catalytic converter. The oxide of nitrogen formed when the nitrogen from the air reacts with oxygen from the air inside the car engine due to the high temperature of the engine. So here we'll choose the reaction between nitrogen and oxygen from air. Both gases from air react due to the high temperature of the engine. And the reaction in the catalytic converter is changing the harmful gases like nitrogen monoxide and carbon monoxide to normal gases, which are nitrogen and carbon dioxide. So the answer will be A. Nitrogen monoxide and carbon monoxide can be converted to normal gases, which are nitrogen, carbon dioxide, normally present in air. The answer is A. Question 33. Which diagram shows the displayed formula of the named organic compound? So here, ethanoic acid, this oxygen is not correct, so this is not the formula of ethanoic acid. Here, ethene has the formula of C2H4, so these two hydrogen are not present. Here, ethanol, this is the correct formula of ethanol. It has 2 carbons, 5 hydrogens, and OH group represent the alcohol function group. Methane has only CH4, 1 carbon and 4 hydrogens, so this is not the correct formula of methane. The only correct formula is C. Question 34. What is the total number of covalent bonds in a molecule of butane? Here I draw the structure of butane. We can count how many covalent bonds present. We have 3 covalent bonds between the carbon atoms. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hydrogen covalent bonds. That means the total will be 13 covalent bonds. Question 35. Propane reacts with chlorine in a substitution reaction. Which reaction condition is required for the reaction to happen? This substitution reaction needs ultraviolet light to happen. It means it's a photochemical reaction, needs ultraviolet light from the sun to happen. The answer is D. Question 36. The structure of an organic compound is shown. Which structure represents a molecule that reacts with steam to produce this compound? This compound is alcohol, and alcohol can be prepared by the reaction of alkene with steam. So we will search for an alkene which contains 3 carbon atoms that can react with steam to form this alcohol, which is propanol. Here we have the alkene formed from 3 carbon atoms. It is propene, so the answer is D. Question 37. Which term describes nylon? Nylon is a synthetic polyamide formed when reacting a monomer containing amino group with another monomer containing carboxylic group to form amide linkage by removal of 1 molecule of water. So the answer is C. Nylon is a polyamide. Question 38. Ethene can be polymerized. Which diagram represents the structure of the formed product? When ethene forms a polymer, we have to remove the double bond, then add 2 open ends to represent the continuation of the polymer, and N to represent the number of ethene molecule used to form the polymer. So the answer is C. Question 39. An acid-base titration is described. 25 centimeter of aqueous alkali is put in the conical flask. Indicator is added to the flask. Dilute acid is added until the indicator changes in color. The volume of the acid is recorded. Which use of apparatus is correct? The first one, 25 centimeter of the aqueous alkali is using with a volumetric pipette. This is correct. Pipette is very accurate in measurement. It can be used to measure exactly 25 centimeter cube of the alkali. 25 centimeter aqueous alkali is measured using the line on a conical flask. Conical flask cannot be used to measure volume. The volume of the acid is measured using a measuring cylinder. This is incorrect. Of course, the acid is added from the purette, and the volume of the acid can be recorded from the initial reading minus the final reading. The volume of the acid is measured using a volumetric pipette. This is also wrong because the acid is used from the pipette. The answer is A. Question 40. Substance Q is investigated using chromatography. Chromatography is shown and the diagram is not drawn to scale. What is the RF value of Q? Here, the RF value is the distance moved by the spot from the baseline to the solvent front. So we will start measuring from the baseline here till the solvent front, the distance moved by the spot, divide the distance moved by the solvent also from the baseline to the solvent front. So we have here the distance 83 millimeters, 83 millimeter distance moved from the starting point till the spot. So we will subtract this distance, which is 13, because we need the distance moved by the spot from the baseline. We will subtract 83 minus 13, so the distance moved by the spot is only 70 millimeter. And we will do the same for the distance moved by the solvent, because we want to start from the baseline. Again, we will subtract this distance, 114 minus 13 millimeter, so the distance moved by the solvent is 101. The RF value is 70, divide 101, it will be 0.69, and the answer is C. Here we come to the end of our exam. Like the video and subscribe to the channel to receive all the updates. Thank you for watching. Wish you all best of luck.